Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, with Monster Hunter Wilds now announced, there is a whole lot of thoughts rushing around through my head, and I'm sure a lot of you are going through the same. They gave us such a small teaser of what the game is, and while it gives us an interesting amount of information, it also is just a small enough look that it leaves open so many possibilities for consideration. So today I want to talk about 10 monsters that I think absolutely need to return in Monster Hunter Wilds, either because I think they would really fit in the environments that we saw, or the size and the scale of the hunting areas would be perfect for them, or even just the idea of the amount of movement the hunter has with the ability to climb up to high areas and glide off of them, and what that could also add to hunts. Then of course there's also just nostalgia and how long it's been since these creatures were last included in a main series game, like the humble Aptonoth. This little friend-shaped dinosaur cow is a staple of the Monster Hunter series that has been in every single game until Rise and Sunbreak, which is honestly a little bit sad, so they should definitely come back in this game. That said, they aren't on my list of 10, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't include a small monster, even though that is my personal opinion. I know you guys would be a little upset if it was one of the 10. And yes, as we begin, there are actually a lot more than 10 monsters on this list. I just managed to categorize them into 10 entries, so I could say everything that I wanted to anyways, because I do what I want. First up then, let's talk Seltas and Seltas Queen. These two would have to be brought in together. They are of course an inseparable unit, and these monsters were brought in the 4th generation, but they haven't been since in the main series. Aside from my personal love for this as a monster and its concepts, the way that it functions together, the way that they introduce it one at a time, it's really cool. The main reason that I think it belongs in Wild specifically is, well, first, the updated technology at this point and how it can do a hell of a lot of good for the whole combined Seltas and Seltas Queen mode with the flying around combo attacks that they have, and then 2, the updated environment and how seemingly based on the lion bear guys that we see in the trailer, there are lower tier large monsters that can spawn in packs, as in more than one, and I think Seltas would actually fit in perfectly for that. And once you have that image in your mind of just multiple Seltas coming in at once, imagine the Seltas Queen fight, but it is one queen and like 4 Seltas. She can fire them at you like Desert Seltas Queen and then just replace her top mount with a fresh one from the original pack. They could run coordinated attacks. It would be sick as hell as a way to bring this fight back, and I love that. Second up today, I want to talk about some somewhat hated monsters, one being Plesioth. We have had a number of new and returning Piscine Wyverns in the 5th generation, but we didn't get the grandpappy of them all, Plesioth, the original fish. This guy is known for causing so much pain in the old games, partly due to his awkward as hell shape, partly due to his janky hitboxes, and partly due to his simple but very deadly moveset, causing people to yell about a tail swipe because he just keeps doing it, and it affects every area that you could possibly stand while actually damaging him with a melee weapon. That's me, by the way. I'm talking about me. I'm that guy. I think a 6th generation visual upgrade for him would instantly make people think that he was a lot better in the first place. And of course, a bit of changing on the moveset, a bit of fixing up the hitboxes, and you could turn one of the most irritating monsters in the series into something far more beloved. Or if they wanted to, they could just double down and introduce new hunters to the world of pain that is Plesioth in the new world, just digging into those mechanics further, making him feel more irritating. That's up to the devs what they want. The other monster that I want to talk about in this section is Gypos. He's just absolutely hated for being a silly little guy that doesn't really look cute, has some irritating attacks and mechanics, and he's just not really all that fun. But I think that if they brought him back and tried to give him like a personality, the same way that Cooliaku has one, the same way that Pookie has one, it could do a lot for Gypos. And especially I think he would fit perfectly in the environment that we had in the announcement trailer for one specific reason. Instead of tying his play dead mechanic to a health threshold and just making it a sort of silly thing, what if when the sandstorm washes over the area and the lightning is just striking down everywhere, what if once in a while it would occasionally hit Gypos, and it's in this moment that he pretends that the lightning strike killed him and he goes down playing dead? That would be an awesome way to tie into that environment, while also playing with the ecology of Gypos, essentially having hide made of rubber, and make his play dead moment a lot more memorable and cool. So he takes something that would kill another creature and just uses it as part of his dastardly ruse. It would be perfect in my mind. Third up then is a simpler one, a singular monster, Gammoth. I think part of the reason that Gammoth is the only member of the Fated 4 that has not returned yet is zone sizes. She is quite large, and none of the maps have corridors large enough for her to just walk through normally, now that monsters don't just teleport from zone to zone like they used to do. Wilds is looking like the opposite of that though, with massive, sprawling, open zones which would be perfect for Gammoth to play around in, and with weather and environmental effects seemingly playing some sort of larger role, I could totally see a colder area in the game, with blizzards and Gammoth actually stronger than ever being deeply in her element. Fourth is a bit of a larger category, but the poster boy of it is going to be Lagiacrus, and the general concept is the more snaky moving leviathans. Lagiacrus was in a technical trailer for Monster Hunter World, but they never worked out how to make his skeleton work properly in the game with the environment, so he'd never actually made it into the full game. There are also a lot of people that speculate that Plesioth was part of World because they had the same problem with Akantor, who is a similar shape, but then in Rise and Iceborne we had a volcano map as well, with what are essentially baby Agnactors, but Agnactor never came there either. And so logically to me, that says they are likely to put in extra effort to bring one or both of these creatures back, because they clearly did want to bring them back before, but ran into a wall. As well, there are some theories that we could have some level of return of underwater combat in Wilds, which would be an awesome way to bring back Lagiacrus back if so. And dare I mention, maybe even another water-based Leviathan? Fifth up, let's talk about the quote-unquote flying Wyverns, by which I mean the real big ice boy and the real big hot guy, Ukanlos and Akantor. These lovely massive creatures are both extremely beloved by different sides of the community, and they again did not return in the 5th generation of games, likely due to the idea that they would need entire, unique, giant little arena maps to actually hold and contain them individually. But looking at the scale of the environment, we can see in the announcement trailer for Wilds, it seems like you could easily plop down into Akantor or Ukanlos in a zone that size that they've already made. Just obviously one that is a little bit more suited to their personal temperature preferences. I can only imagine updated fights and updated models for both of these though would be absolutely incredible, and Wilds seems like a perfect place for this based on the scale of it all. On a similar note, we have our 6th entry, which is siege monsters as a general statement, for the exact same reason that the sheer size of these areas is actually large enough I could totally see a massive monster just walking through it like it's a normal monster. And the two poster boys that I've chosen for this one that I would really love to see again are Laoshan Lung, who I have long said is my least favorite Elder Dragon, but I think a port to the 6th generation where you could fight him in the actual open world because it's just that big, and then they update his moveset to feel like an actually involved hunt rather than just beating up a confused old man dragon, it would completely change my opinion on him. The other one I am really pulling for here is Yoshis Suami, and that will likely surprise no one, but similar to why I thought he would be perfect in Rise and Sunbreak, the big maps and the vertical gameplay that we had with our climbing ability, well, Wilds has expanded on both of those things, with the areas easily being big enough for a Yoshis Suami to just float by passively, to suck in the soil underneath. The scale of it is actually great for this monster, and on top of that, as opposed to the simple vertical movement of wire bugs in Rise and Sunbreak, in Wilds we actually have a mount that can literally climb to high places and then glide, properly glide, which would obviously be perfect for an aerial assault on a floating monster, especially if there's a map that has like air vents or something that would shoot your glider up further. I could see that being a whole event that would be awesome to fight Yoshis Suami with, and I can picture the glorious cutscene that they could use to introduce the monster and the mechanics as well. But as a whole, I just really want them to bring back proper siege monsters as a concept, considering the size of the area that we see, and the fact that we honestly didn't really have any of these in Rise and Sunbreak, unless you count the final bosses, I guess. But really, I can just see classic siege fights being brought into the 6th generation and turned into much more proper actual monster fights than they were before. Number 7 is again on a similar vein, but more specific, and this is Dire Moralis. I don't think I would technically count him as a siege monster fight, but he is an ungodly large monster that would never fit in a normal-sized Monster Hunter zone until potentially Monster Hunter Wilds. He is the only black dragon that wasn't brought into the 5th generation from World and Iceborne, and I think honestly that is for the best if he comes in here, because this game just seems to fit him more than any that I've seen since of course his initial inclusion. And I just really want an updated model and updated moveset for this massive volcanic dragon dude. Then for number 8 we have a much more obvious one, Najarala. This popped into my head because the logo itself for Monster Hunter Wilds has very serpentine shapes in it, which to me implies the return of the snake wyvern skeleton, and of course the one easily returning monster who has that is Najarala, who is an awesome monster I would be more than happy to fight again, especially with an update to the 6th generation. For number 9 we have another one that I've talked about already before, but I had to bring it up again, which is Monoblos. This monster has been on the sidelines for far too long in my opinion, mostly because they just keep bringing back Diablos, and it's hard to justify bringing back both Diablos and Monoblos as returning monsters in the same game because they're just so similar to each other. So I think, hey, maybe for this game and expansion, we could just take a break from Diablos and actually get Monoblos for a bit, right? Just shake things up a bit and introduce this lovely monster to people who have only started playing in recent years and thus only seen Diablos. Then for the final entry, we have my own personal favorite 2 monsters, because both of which have not been included in a main series game since the 4th generation, which are of course Duramboros, who I think would be perfect for Wilds as he is pretty large for a large monster, so the bigger zones would actually be fantastic for him, and I can imagine with the weather being what it is from the lightning storm, they could definitely put in some cool tree destruction physics too, stick him in a forest and just let him mow down trees mid-fight. Also, just imagine the idea of seeing a Duramboros helicopter into the sky, but like from a distance, like he's just doing it for himself having fun, and you just see it from across the map, just a shape in the distance going in circles, rotating and then going back down. Like it would be so silly. Then the second one of course is Zam Trios, who I was teased with in Rise and Sunbreak as they put Zamites on the Frost Islands, but I think that this game, Monster Hunter Wilds, would actually be as good a setting for Zamtrios as any. Again, the larger zones, letting him have more room for his ball mode to be even more exaggerated, but I also really hope that they go wacky with the physics on it, because the areas are so big, and in theory the technology would be good for the physics in this game. So what if he goes into like ball mode, and if he accidentally bounces on a piece of angled terrain instead of a piece of flat ground, he just like boops off to the side instead of attacking you, and he just looks really concerned the whole time because he didn't expect to go that way. As well, with the whole packs of large monster concept, I can actually see them having a lot of fun with this, with having him surrounded by Zamites as they normally are. But if the Zamite does its classic thing, bites his, sucks out enough blood, and grows, instead of becoming a larger Zamite like it did in the other games, what if it just became a straight up small Zamtrios? Different modes and all, like having the ice armor, having the ball mode, it's just tiny, because that is honestly how they basically work as a species, and I think that'd be hilarious to be able to represent in real-time hunting with large monster packs. That's it then for today, everyone. My list of honestly quite a few more than 10 monsters I think absolutely should be returning for Monster Hunter Wilds. Of course, there's no way that we get all of these, but I'd be ecstatic if we got even 4 or 5 of the different things that I've mentioned here, because I genuinely believe that all of them would just be such good choices for them to bring back, and the only reason I could see 4 or 5 not making it in is if they actually just go really hard on the new monster train and only include a few returning monsters to make more room for new ones. So we'll have to see how this list does as a sort of prediction. I don't really know how it'll be by the time the game comes out, but more than anything, these are just the group of monsters I think absolutely deserve to be brought into this game and into the new style of hunting that we are going to have. What are your thoughts then? Do you agree with my list, or are there some more monsters that you'd like to throw out your own 2 cents on? Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.